There are words we hear so often that they almost lose their meaning. Truth, reality, awakening, freedom. They sound like heavy ideas, distant and untouchable, reserved for saints, sages, or philosophers. But what if they are not far away? What if they are not concepts to be studied, but experiences you can feel in your own breath in this very moment? Imagine sitting still and realizing that truth isn't out there waiting to be found. Reality isn't locked behind illusion. Awakening isn't a final mountain to climb. And freedom isn't something granted by the world. They are all facets of the same jewel, shining quietly inside you, waiting to be seen. When we begin to explore truth, the first instinct of the mind is to think of facts, of data, of information that can be proven or disproven. But truth in the deeper sense is not about stacking up evidence or memorizing knowledge. It is about recognizing what does not change, even when everything else shifts. Take a moment to notice the world around you changes constantly. The seasons move, the body grows older, thoughts come and go like drifting clouds. Yet there is something steady beneath all of this movement, something that remains. This is the foundation of truth. It is not just an idea, but an experience of quiet clarity, like the still ground beneath a rushing river. Truth in this way is not found outside of you, in books, or in the approval of others. It lives within the silence that is always present beneath thought. When you close your eyes and take a deep breath, you may notice a still presence. That presence is not touched by opinions or stories. It is not swayed by fear or desire. It simply is. This is the essence of truth, the unchanging core of your being. Spiritual intelligence, as we describe it, is the capacity to recognize and align with that essence. It is more than intellectual cleverness. It is more than knowing the right words. It is the sensitivity to feel what is real, even when appearances are misleading. For example, when you see a reflection in water, the surface might seem to show shapes, movement, distortion, but the reflection is not the reality. If you look closely, you see that beneath the ripples is water itself, clear and whole. Truth works in the same way. Beneath the reflections of thought and story, there is something that cannot be broken. This is why truth is often described as eternal. Not eternal in the sense of endless time, but eternal in the sense that it is outside of time. It was here before you were born, and it will remain after you are gone. You may forget it, you may ignore it, but you can never destroy it. It is always here, waiting for your recognition. That is why teachers and mystics across cultures have pointed not toward belief, but toward direct seeing. They remind us again and again, truth is not a concept to adopt. It is an inner realization. As you reflect on this, notice how the body feels. Notice the natural rhythm of the breath. Each inhale, each exhale carries you closer to this essence. You do not need to force it. You do not need to achieve anything. You only need to soften the effort and let awareness settle. In that settling, truth reveals itself as a kind of clarity, a transparency. It is like cleaning dust off a mirror. The mirror was always shining, but until the dust is wiped away, you cannot see clearly. This is why spiritual intelligence is precious. It gives you the ability to tell the difference between the dust and the mirror, between the noise and the silence, between illusion and reality. When you cultivate it, you begin to live differently. You no longer chase after every passing thought or emotion, believing it defines you. Instead, you rest in what is steady, in what is unchanging. And from that place, you meet life with more calm, more compassion, more strength. But let's be honest, the pull of the world is strong. Stories, beliefs, and fears often cover the truth like layers of fog. That is why practice is needed. Not practice to create truth, but practice to remember it. Think of meditation as a gentle peeling away of illusions. Each time you sit, breathe, and notice, you are clearing a little more of the fog. And in that clearing, the truth shines not as an idea but as a lived experience. Imagine for a moment that you are standing by a lake at dawn. The surface is misty, the air cool, and the reflection of the rising sun is blurred. Slowly, as the mist lifts, the water grows calm and the image becomes clear. This is how truth feels. At first, it is hidden behind the mist of conditioning, the mist of judgments, the mist of stories you have carried. But as the mist dissolves, what was always there is revealed, whole and bright. Truth is not fragile. It does not depend on anyone believing in it. It does not crumble under doubt. It simply waits for recognition. And once you recognize it, even for a moment, you begin to realize something important. You realize that your worth is not based on achievement or approval or comparison. Your worth is rooted in that unchanging essence. This realization is deeply freeing. It gives you permission to live more honestly, to drop the mask, to stop performing for others, and to rest in what is real. From here, your relationship with life begins to transform. Challenges still appear, difficulties still come, but they are met differently. Instead of being lost in fear or anger, you have an anchor. The anchor is the truth of your being. It is like a steady flame that does not flicker when the winds blow. And as you deepen in this, compassion naturally arises. Because when you know your own essence, you recognize it in others. You see that behind appearances, everyone shares the same ground of being. This is not meant to be taken as philosophy alone. It is meant to be tasted, lived, embodied. Each breath can be an entry point. Each quiet pause can remind you. And every time you remember, the hold of illusion weakens a little more. Truth becomes less of a distant idea and more of a constant companion. So as we rest in this first step, let it be clear. Truth is not complicated. It is not hidden far away. It is here, now, in the presence that underlies your thoughts, in the silence that is already holding you. All you need to do is pause, breathe, and notice. The more you do, the more life aligns itself naturally around this center. And when you live from this place, you begin to taste the freedom that comes from no longer needing to chase, no longer needing to prove, no longer needing to hide. You are simply rooted in what is. That is the beginning of the journey, and it is enough to change everything. If truth is the essence, then reality is its expression. Reality is the stage where the essence of truth plays itself out. Moment by moment, in every sound, every sight, every sensation you encounter. And yet, reality is often hidden from us. Not because it is absent, but because our minds are clouded by layers of conditioning, beliefs, and projections. We do not see what is, we see what we expect, or what we fear, or what we remember. Reality in its pure form is simple, it is immediate. It is what is happening right here, right now, before the mind tries to label or interpret it. Think about how often we mistake our thoughts for reality. You walk into a room and immediately you are caught in judgments: too hard, too cold, too noisy, too quiet. You meet someone and instead of seeing them clearly, you see them through the lens of your past experiences, your assumptions, your expectations, the reality of the moment, the warmth of the air, the sound of a voice. The expression on a face gets covered by layers of interpretation. Spiritual intelligence is what allows us to cut through those layers. It is the faculty that reminds us, wait, look again, see what is actually here. This shift may sound small, but it is transformative. Imagine tasting a piece of fruit while distracted. You chew quickly, your mind already moving to the next task. The flavor barely registers. Now imagine tasting that same fruit with full attention. The sweetness fills your mouth, the texture becomes alive. The juice, the fragrance, the sensation, this is reality as it is. Nothing has changed externally. What changed is your perception. You moved from projection to presence. You moved from illusion to reality. In this sense, reality is not opposed to truth. They are not two separate things. Truth is the essence, the ground. Reality is the manifestation, the living fabric where that essence is revealed. To see reality clearly is to live in truth. To ignore reality is to remain trapped in illusion. And so when we speak of cultivating spiritual intelligence, we are speaking about developing the sensitivity to notice reality without distortion. But distortion is subtle. It comes in the form of stories we tell ourselves, often without noticing. I am not good enough. This moment is incomplete. I will only be happy when I achieve this or that. These stories seem real, but they are not. They are veils covering reality. And reality, when seen clearly, needs no improvement. It is whole as it is. Even discomfort, even pain, is part of reality. To reject it is to reject life itself. To meet it with presence is to honor truth as it expresses in this moment. Let us pause and explore this directly. Take a breath. Notice the air moving into your lungs. Notice the beat of your heart. These are not ideas. They are not memories. They are reality right now. Sounds may arise in the background. A thought may pass through the mind. All of this is part of reality. There is nothing missing, nothing wrong. It is simply what is. And in this recognition, something softens. The constant search for something else quiets. Presence arises naturally. Many traditions have spoken of this. They remind us that reality is often obscured, but never absent. Just as clouds cover the sun without destroying it, our conditioning may cover reality, but it cannot erase it. The work is not to create reality, but to uncover it, to let the clouds pass, to see again what has always been shining. This uncovering is not dramatic. It is gentle, often subtle, but deeply powerful. Each time you return to the immediacy of the moment, you are living in alignment with reality. And when you live this way, something changes in how you meet the world. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin to respond consciously. Instead of being driven by stories, you are grounded in presence. This presence allows you to see others more clearly. You recognize that behind the masks, behind the roles, behind the projections, there is the same reality expressing itself in countless forms. This recognition naturally brings compassion because you are no longer relating to illusions, you're relating to life itself. It is important to remember that reality is not always comfortable. It does not always fit our preferences. Sometimes reality includes loss, uncertainty, or pain. But When met with clarity, even these experiences are transformed. They no longer carry the same weight of resistance. They no longer trap you in suffering. You may still feel sadness, but beneath it, there is space. You may still feel fear, but beneath it, there is awareness. In that awareness, you are free, even in the midst of difficulty. This is why reality and truth are described as synonymous. They are not different dimensions, but two sides of the same coin. When you see clearly what is, you are touching truth. When you align with truth, you are living in reality. And this recognition is not reserved for special moments of meditation. It is available in every breath, every step, every encounter. All it requires is the willingness to pause, to soften the grip of the mind, and to let life reveal itself. So as we explore this second step, let it be an invitation. Each time you notice yourself lost in thought, gently come back to the senses. Listen to the sound of the wind, feel the ground beneath your feet. Notice the rise and fall of the breath. These simple doorways bring you back to reality. And with each return, the fog of illusion thins. You begin to live not in a story about life, but in life itself. And in that living, truth is expressed fully, effortlessly, as the radiant presence of reality. If truth is the essence and reality is its expression, then awakening is the recognition of both. Awakening is not a concept. It is not something you can memorize or explain away. Awakening is the moment when the conditioned mind loses its hold and awareness shines directly, without distortion. It is the shift from seeing life through the fog of stories to seeing clearly with the eyes of presence. Awakening is often imagined as something grand, a lightning strike, a sudden explosion of light. And sometimes it may feel that way. But more often, awakening begins quietly. It is the simple recognition: I am not my thoughts, I am not my fears, I am not the roles I play, I am the awareness behind it all. That recognition is like opening a window in a dark room. Even a small crack allows light to enter, and once the light is seen, the darkness cannot claim the same power. The conditioned mind is like a cage, made of patterns, made of habits, made of the endless cycle of craving and aversion. Awakening is the moment you notice the cage and realize the door has always been open. You step through, not by force, but by recognition. Awareness itself was never trapped. It was only your identification with the cage that kept you bound. This is why awakening is described as clarity. Clarity to see as being itself perceives, not as the ego interprets. The ego filters everything through me and mine, through gain and loss, through comparison. Being does not filter. Being simply perceives. When you awaken, even for a moment, you experience this direct perception. You see a tree not as a thing to be used or judged, but as life expressing itself. You hear a sound not as background noise or distraction, but as part of the vast tapestry of now. Awakening is not the end of challenges. Thoughts still come, emotions still arise, circumstances still shift. But what changes is the relationship you have with them. Instead of being consumed by the storm, you notice the sky that holds the storm. Instead of drowning in the wave, you rest as the ocean itself. This shift is subtle, but it transforms everything. To awaken is to remember unity. You recognize that beneath all appearances, life is whole. There's no separation between you and the world, between self and other, between inside and outside. The same awareness looking out of your eyes is the awareness looking out of every pair of eyes. This is why awakening brings compassion. You see yourself in others and others in yourself. Yet, awakening also requires courage. The mind resists it because awakening means letting go of old identities. The ego does not want to dissolve. It clings to its stories. It insists. I am my achievements. I am my failures. I am my opinions. I am my fears. Awakening whispers, you are none of these. You are the awareness in which they appear and disappear. Letting go of these false identities can feel like dying, but what dies is only the illusion. What remains is freedom. To support awakening, practice is essential. Sitting in stillness, observing the breath, watching the play of thought without attachment, all of these practices soften the grip of conditioning. They create space for recognition. But it is important to understand, awakening is not created by practice. Awakening is already here. Practice only clears the dust so that recognition can happen. It is like opening the blinds in a room that is already filled with sunlight. Let us explore this in a simple exercise. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice the thoughts moving across the mind. Instead of following them, ask yourself who is noticing. Do not answer with words. Just feel the noticing itself. That noticing is awareness. It does not come and go with the thoughts. It is steady, silent, spacious. This is the doorway to awakening. When you touch this space, even briefly, life begins to shift. You realize that peace is not something to achieve. It is already present beneath the noise. You realize that love is not something to beg for. It is the natural expression of awareness itself. You realize that freedom is not something to fight for in the external world. It is the release from inner bondage. Awakening reveals all of this, not as new knowledge, but as lived experience. It is natural to ask, how will I know if I have awakened? The truth is, if you are asking, you have already tasted it. Awakening is not measured by visions or dramatic experiences. It is measured by simplicity, by the ease of being present, by the softening of the ego's grip, by the growing sense of unity and compassion. It is measured by the ability to rest in awareness, even when the mind is busy, even when life is messy. Awakening is also not a one-time event. It deepens. It unfolds. You may have glimpses followed by periods of forgetfulness. This is natural. Each glimpse plants a seed. Over time, the seed grows and recognition becomes more stable. The important thing is not to chase awakening as a goal. Chasing only strengthens the ego. Instead, relax into awareness again and again. Awakening happens in the letting go, not in the striving. So as we pause here, reflect on this truth. Awakening is not something outside you. It is not reserved for special people. It is the natural recognition of who you already are. It is the shift from identification with the conditioned mind to resting as awareness itself. It is clarity, it is unity, it is freedom. And it begins now, in this very breath, if you are willing to notice. If truth is the essence, reality its expression, and awakening the recognition, then freedom is the embodiment. Freedom is the natural fruit of insight, the lived result of touching truth, of seeing reality, of awakening into awareness. Yet when most people hear the word freedom, they think of external conditions, political liberty, financial independence, or the ability to do whatever they want. But the freedom spoken of here is deeper, quieter, and far more transformative. It is the freedom from inner bondage, from the chains of fear, attachment, and illusion that quietly confine the spirit. This freedom is not about escaping life. It is not about avoiding responsibility or detaching coldly from the world. True freedom is the ability to live fully in the world without being trapped by its illusions. It is the freedom to meet joy without clinging, to meet sorrow without despair, to walk through uncertainty without collapsing into fear. This freedom is not fragile because it is not dependent on external circumstances. It arises from within, from the steady ground of awareness itself. Think of how often we believe we are free, but live like captives. Captives of our habits, captives of our anxieties, captives of the voices that tell us we are not enough. We may appear outwardly independent, yet inwardly we are bound. True freedom begins the moment you recognize that these bonds are not absolute. They are patterns of thought, loops of conditioning, habits of identification, and patterns can be dissolved, loops can be broken. Awakening shows you the door, and freedom is stepping through it. This freedom is not dramatic. It may not look like a sudden change from the outside, but inside it feels like space. It feels like breathing after years of holding your breath. It feels like being able to rest in yourself without running, without hiding, without pretending. It is the freedom to be authentic, to live aligned with truth, to let go of the false masks. When this freedom is tasted, life becomes lighter. Challenges still arise, but they no longer define you. Thoughts still come, but they no longer enslave you. Emotions still move, but they no longer drown you. You remain rooted in awareness, steady and unshaken. This is why freedom is described as liberation, not from the world, but from the illusions that made you believe you were small, broken, or incomplete. Let us imagine this in a simple way. Picture a bird inside a cage. The bird believes the cage is its world. It sings, it flutters, but it never flies beyond the bars. Now imagine the door of the cage has been open all along. The bird simply never noticed. One day, it turns, sees the open door, and realizes it was never truly trapped. That moment of recognition is awakening. The act of spreading its wings and flying into the open sky is freedom. You are that bird. The door has always been open. Freedom is remembering you can fly. This inner freedom changes not only how you feel, but how you live. When you are free inside, you no longer chase approval. You no longer cling to possessions. You no longer fight to defend an identity that was never real. Instead, you act from clarity, from compassion, from authenticity. Your choices arise from presence, not from fear. And those choices ripple outward, touching others, creating space for them to also sense their own freedom. Spiritual intelligence is what equips you to dwell in this freedom. It aligns the mind and heart with what is ultimately real, so that freedom is not just an idea but a lived reality. When mind and heart are united with truth, reality, and awakening, freedom becomes natural. It is not forced, it is not manufactured, it simply flows. Just as a tree does not struggle to produce fruit once it is rooted, awakening naturally bears the fruit of freedom. But we must also remember Freedom requires practice. Not practice to create it, but practice to remember it. The bonds of conditioning are strong. The world constantly reinforces illusion. So we return again and again to the breath, to presence, to silence. Each time we return, we weaken the old chains. Each time we remember, we step more fully into freedom. Over time, freedom becomes not a glimpse, but a way of being. This freedom is not selfish. It is not only for personal peace. It radiates outward. A free person is less likely to harm others because they no longer act from fear or scarcity. A free person naturally brings compassion because they see the same essence in all beings. A free person inspires others, not by preaching, but simply by being. Freedom in this way is not the end of the path. It is the beginning of a new way of living, rooted in awareness, guided by love. So let us pause and reflect. Truth is the essence, reality is the expression, awakening is the recognition, and freedom is the embodiment. These are not four separate destinations, but four faces of the same jewel. To touch one is to move closer to all. And together they form the heart of spiritual intelligence, the deep knowing that life is not about survival or accumulation or performance, but about unfolding awareness, unity, and presence. As we close this reflection, take a deep breath, inhale gently, exhale slowly. Allow the word freedom to echo in your awareness. Not freedom as an idea, but freedom as a lived possibility. Feel into the space within you that has never been bound. Sense the stillness, the openness, the authenticity that is already here. This is the freedom that cannot be taken, cannot be broken, because it is who you are. Rest in it, trust it, live from it, and let it guide you forward. If this journey has touched something inside you, take a moment to stay connected. Every week, we explore deeper into truth, reality, awakening, and freedom with guided practices that you can carry into daily life. Subscribe now so you do not miss the next meditation, and share this video with someone who may need a moment of stillness today. Your presence here helps build a community of awareness.